back again. How y'all doing on this Thursday? We out there kicking it like karate, getting to it? Let's go. Let's go. Had to make sure the sounds off. Fucking do not disturbs on. You already know, Thursday, going crazy. Huge day in sports. We got Washington versus the Giants. Thursday night football, first short week of the season. You already know we got stocks and sits, prop bets, Thursday night locks, and we'll quickly go through the latest injury report just in case you missed anything, because there were some huge injuries like DeMarcus Lawrence broke his foot in practice yesterday, man. That's the last thing you're trying to see. He's going to be out at least 6 to 8 weeks. That's a huge loss for that defense. So we'll quickly go through the injury report, and we're going to end the show with my Europa League locks. Yesterday, Champions League, up and down, 4-4 day. Couple first goal scorers out there that didn't hit, but that's how it goes, right? You throw the first goal scorers out there as a quick flyer. If you hit, it's even better, right? It's add on top of the locks. So let's get into it. So the Thursday night game tonight, we got Washington favored by 3.5 versus the Giants. Washington sitting minus 175 on the money line. Giants plus 150 underdogs with the over-under at 40.5, which might shift, but I think that's a good number for this game. It could really go either way. And you got Washington coming off that 20-16 loss to the Chargers. That shit's tough. And this is how we're going to go through it, right? Like when we're referring back to how they played last week, certain stats from last week that could be attributed to this week and help you make your decisions on prop bets, locks, starts and sits. So last week, Washington coming off that tough loss to the Chargers. We did say that we watched the coach for the Chargers on the Pat McAfee show. He looked like he played no games, and watching that spread move from +1 for the Chargers and it moved to +1.5 and then to +2, I was like, come on. The Chargers, there's no chance they're losing. And granted, Fitzmagic, he got hurt. Heineke came in the second quarter. Played alright. Enough to win the game, obviously. But what's going to be huge for Washington is their run game and making sure they get Antonio Gibson the ball. Get McKissick involved a little more. You already know Heineke, he's going to have his rushes himself. That's why, if you tuned into the last show, the top 5 waiver ads of the week, Heineke was at number 5 because it's really only a super flex play. If you're in regular leagues, only one quarterback, you're not really worried about him. Maybe in some games where they'll be down, but in this game, I think divisional matchup, Thursday night football on a short week. It's going to be tough for each offense to get going. And if Washington can put some early points on the board, it's going to be a long day for the Giants. So, and that plays right into my prop bets too. And certain things with game script and the game flow, you always have to try to predict and project that, especially based off like who's out, who's in. Like this week, you got Saquon, questionable. Evan Ingram, out again this week. So, the biggest surprise last week was Gibson rushing those 20 times for 90 yards, right? Averaging 4.5 a carry. But he did have 2 fumbles. If we look down here. See? He did have 2 fumbles. Lost one of them. As a starting running back in the NFL, and especially Ron Rivera, I know he don't play any games. It's gonna get tough for him. If you keep losing rock, you cannot keep rushing that man as many times as he is. And fumbling is not really a problem. Last year, Didn't fumble much. Could have been just the game, like the Chargers. Stout defense. Derwin James back. But it's gonna get tough if they. Oh shit! See, these notifications going crazy. Hell of a day. I cannot wait. Cannot wait. And Europa League, that's starting at 12:45. I think there's like 6 games at 12:45, and then 6 games at 3 o'clock. So huge day on the Europa League slate. But Gibson this week, I think he's gonna be a monster. If he could not fumble, because as soon as he fumbles once, it might be one of those games to prove a point to him. Throw McKissick out there. Because if you look last week, McKissick hardly didn't do anything. That's one of my sits of the week, because you only get 1 target, no catches. I think he ran the ball once. Yeah, once for 8 yards. It was one of them games where, yeah, it was close. And that's even more surprising for Gibson getting 20 rushes in a game where it's close, that trying to bleed the clock a little bit. You have your backup quarterback in there, so they're going to be even more dependent on the running game. So this week, the Giants coming off that 27-13 loss to Denver. They straight got washed by Denver. Gave up 264 yards to Bridgewater, 165 on the ground. And granted, at the end of the game, like, I got Melvin Gordon in one of my crazy leagues. Came through clutch with that 70-yard touchdown run. That shit was huge. I didn't even know he had that. All of a sudden, took a little nap, wake up, I think during the Sunday night game. Bruh, and he had broke off a 70-yard run. I think he was like right before that, 10 carries, 30-something yards, no touchdowns. They clearly want to get Javonte Williams the ball. So if you have Javonte in fantasy leagues, it was a hell of a pick. A couple weeks in, he'll probably get a bulk of the carries. I'm not really seeing this be too much of a 1A, 1B tandem. I think Javonte, as a rookie, they're just trying to get him some NFL action, get him out there, get him comfortable, and then all of a sudden, boom, full go. So one thing to look out for, we already said Evan Ingram out for this game tonight. Saquon Barkley, questionable. And Saquon's one, I added him to my sits, but it's one of those players, obviously, one of the top running backs when he's healthy, and because he gets the targets. But last week, easing him into action, I think he was cleared on, Saturday? He was cleared for NFL action. And this week, I think he picked up another injury, which is going to linger. And even though he is a top pick, and you're going to be of the mindset of, oh, I drafted him so high, but now, how can I sit him, right? I use one of my top draft picks. But it does not matter when it comes to fantasy, right? We've seen players, top draft picks before, straight have shitty seasons. And it happens like that sometimes. And it could be because of injury, it could be because of coaching changes, front office, quarterback injuries. You never know. It's really up in the air. But once you start seeing games like this, 10 rushes, 26 yards, I think he was only targeted 3 times in the passing game. And being questionable going into tonight, I'm staying away from him. If you have him in your fantasy league, it's going to take balls. But you got to leave him on your bench. Hold up, quick shit. And shout out Hartley too. I love little shit in the league where someone would just like bring through something like funny as fuck, you know what I mean? If you watched, I think it was called The League. If you watched that show, they had the Sacco trophy, right? They had the fucking ill trophies. That show was hella lit. Kind of what got me fully into the fantasy football, and really like, because you get to see, and obviously it's just for the show, but you get to see like how they do drafts and trophies and celebrating where they do the drafts at. It's kind of lit. But shout out Hartley. You said it's gonna take balls. This man brought through the straight Sacco trophy. For the people who finished in last place last year, hella funny. And you gotta have people like that in your league, right? It's fun as fuck, and I love fantasy football. That shit's lit. And gonna be having the trophy on the way for my league winner this year, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And I cannot wait. Cannot wait to see how this season progresses. We were double champ 2 years ago. RDG's came back. He was double champ last year. So trying to knock him off the top spot. You already know. Audi, if you're watching, you already know we coming for that ass, boy. You already know it. And if you were him or Bowler, that boy be like, pose. So let's get back into it. Fucking starts for this game on Washington. Only in Superflex leagues are you starting Heineke. And I think he should be a solid play, especially versus the Giants. And if it's a close game, like if the Giants put up more than 13, which divisional game is probably going to be tough, but if they do put up points early, that means Heineke, he's going to be passing the ball. He's going to be out there, probably be scrambling a little bit too, because he does have a little bit of wheels. So super flex play, I think that's guaranteed. Lock him in. Gibson, certified running back 1 over there. And if Gibson doesn't fumble, he's going to be an absolute monster. If we look at Gibson, he was the most targeted out of the backfield or as a wideout. Because we look at McLaurin, 4 targets. Logan Thomas, only 3 targets. And granted, that's kind of game script. But Cam Sims, 1 target, 1 catch, 17 yards. Adam Humphries in there. It gets tough. But I think Gibson having those 5 targets, Heineke coming in, he's going to want to dump it off, right? And I was surprised that McKissick didn't get more targets, but if that's how the game flow is gonna go this year, you definitely got to keep an eye on that. So start Heineke, start Gibson, and you have to start McLaurin. Even though he was only targeted 4 times, caught all 4 of them for 62 yards, and Logan Thomas, you probably drafted him to be a starting tight end. If you're in a league where it got 2 tight ends, people trying to boost the points, you have to start him. But this is a game where Logan Thomas, in games with Heineke, he's been targeted 19 times. And those, I think it was only like 3 games with Heineke, a couple half games because the original quarterback got injured. But I think catching that touchdown, he's always a red zone target. And that catch last week where he caught that touchdown, got up there and snagged that, right? Had the mitts, straight snagged that shit. So I think he'll probably get another red zone touchdown again. It's really in his yards and his catches to really boost the points, but I think he's a solidified starter. On the Giants side of the ball, which is sketchy. You don't really know who to start in that wide receiver core. You got to deal with, right? You got to pick between Shepard, Slayton, Galladay out there. Even the rookie who didn't do too much last week, but Kadarius Toney is a monster. If he was on a different team that didn't have as many targets and weapons out there, he would be eating in the slot. Little quick in space and get him the ball and he'll go get you some yards. So I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised they even drafted him, knowing they had Slayton, Galladay, and Sterling Shepard, and Saquon out of the backfield catching the ball. And they even picked up Kyle Rudolph just in case for this exact situation. If Evan Ingram's injured, Rudolph right in there. But even in 2 tight end leagues, or if you aren't confident in your tight end, I say stay away from Kyle Rudolph. He had 5 targets, but only caught 2 of them for 8 yards. So he's not really going to get you a lot of yards or catches. It's really based on touchdowns And I can't bank on touchdowns from fucking Daniel Jones, right? And one of the key stats, like, if you're in a Superflex league, Daniel Jones, he'll be a good starter. Even though Washington got a good defense, even though he's going on the road, even though he'll probably throw a pick, one of my prop bets. But in this game, I think Daniel Jones would be a solid starter. And especially if you're in Superflex leagues, you got to put him in there, right? He accounted for both of the Giants' touchdowns last week, one on the ground and one through the air. Didn't throw a pick versus the Chargers. Didn't throw a pick versus Denver. And Denver, stout defense, right? They got corners. And I think it sucks. They just traded for Ronald Darby. Guess what? I think they just put him on IR. Or if he's not on IR, he's definitely injured right after the first game. So that's tough. They got Patrick Surtain. He's a monster cornerback. So I think Danny Dimes, he's going to get out there. I think Washington's going to be up, so he's going to have to pass the ball a lot. You already know you're going to get carries out of him. Depending if he breaks one off or not, that really boosts the yardage. But scrambling ability is solid, and only sacked twice last week. It's not too bad, but with Von Miller out there, I'm pretty sure they had Von Miller not even out. Did he just not show up on the fucking... Oh, I was about to say. Yeah, Von Miller getting after the 3 QB hits, 3 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks. Monster. And especially when you got him coming off the edge, and then you got to deal with Chase Young this week. Could get tough, but I think he'll be a viable quarterback option for Superflex leagues, and that's only Superflex leagues. And I'll make sure to hammer that point when we're talking about it so you don't get fucked up. Throw him out there in your lineup, hoping, all right, he'll get a couple TDs and be a serviceable quarterback. But if you're in a 1-quarterback league, Daniel Jones shouldn't even be picked up. And the wide receiver situation, I'm starting Shepard. I'm starting Galladay. Those are both solid plays based on the game flow, and I'm thinking Washington's going to be up, so Giants are going to have to pass the ball, especially with Saquon questionable. Still lingering injuries. They're not going to give him the ball too much. You seen last week, Daniel Jones threw it 37 times. It's one of them games, man, where I don't see New York's running backs really doing anything. So I think Shepard and Galladay, they're the only 2 wide receivers that I would play. And then the sits for this week, I'm sitting McKissick, and you might want to check out Cam Sims. Last year, he balled out a couple times with Heineke, which could play into this, but only 1 target last week. And especially with Gibson getting the targets that he was getting, Logan Thomas and McLaurin out there, and especially running it 27 times, I'm not sure that Cam Sims is even a viable option in Superflex leagues or double flex leagues. So I'd probably stay away from him. And if you have him on your roster, he's droppable. I don't think any of the wide receivers besides McLaurin and the tight end Thomas are really going to do much on your roster. It's going to be one of those boom or bust plays, and definitely got to be wary of that. And on the Giants side of the ball, we already covered it a little bit, but Saquon, I'm staying away from him until he's fully healthy, and especially versus Washington, where it's going to be tough to run anyway. Stay away from Saquon this week. And the wide receiver that I would stay away from on the Giants is Darius Slayton. If you look last week, 7 targets, the second most targeted receiver, but only caught 3 of them for 65 yards. And one of those catches was for 42 yards. So if you only have 23 yards, right, on 2 catches, you can't play that. You can't play that game. And he's a big target. And it looks like he's going to spread the ball around. but I don't think you could really bank on that. And then if you throw him in there and he doesn't produce, that's awful, right? You have a player starting on a Thursday night game, and you got 2 days for that December, Friday and Saturday for December. Like, damn, I got these fucking 5 points in my lineup. How am I gonna win this week, right? You gotta hope whoever you're playing that week, you gotta hope one of their players fucking only catches 2 passes or something like that. Something crazy. You gotta hope for something wild. And you know, in the NFL, you always got wild shit going on. So, and Rudolph, staying away from him too. I already covered that a little bit. And even with Rudolph, even with Ingram out, you would think Rudolph would be more of a, all right, I'm gonna go to him. He's that veteran presence. He's been around. Kirk Cousins would use him up and down. He used to catch touchdowns, be an okay starter some weeks. But last week, 2 catches on 5 targets for only 8 yards. You cannot play that, even if you're in a 2 tight end league. So those are my starts and sits for the game tonight. My DFS play, and I only got a quick note from DFS. Last week, Tampa Bay versus Dallas, I was thinking, all right, word, Pat McAfee had a little thing where we're going to get in there and they're going to have, right, you got 5 flex positions. We're over there throwing in the kicker. And, the kicker, Greg Zuerlein, he missed what, 3? 2 field goals and an extra point? Bruh. That was my number 1 kicking play last week. And granted, hit on the prop bet over 1.5, which is obvious. He could have had like 4 field goals, but that's how it goes sometimes, right? You can never guarantee it. But my little note for DFS and those little 5-player flex DFS plays, stay away from them, right? I was so amped, right? Opening kickoff, all this. Let me get my lineup in there. There's all these, thousands of fucking entries. Well, tens of thousands of entries. But you got to think, with only selecting 5 players, there's going to be multiple lineups with that, or multiple people who pick that same exact lineup. So, he said, yeah, granted, first will win $1 million. But, bruh, if you have 20, 30, 40,000 people who pick the same lineup, guess what? That milli is getting broken down by 40,000. And granted, it's a decent chunk of change, whatever it equated to. But, bruh, the money is not there. It's not worth it. So, be wary of that. And be wary of those 5-player flex contests. Unless it has a low number of entries. Because if it has a low number of entries, those are going to be less people that have that same exact lineup and more of a chance for you to win more money. So make sure you keep that in mind when it comes to those 5-player flex positions and those contests. On to the locks for tonight. You already know we're locking shit in. Got to get over here my favorites. So my locks for tonight, we're going through and we're riding with Washington. Taylor Heineke, old Panthers quarterback behind Cam. Didn't really perform. It was when the Panthers were rebuilding. But he's a solid play. He's going to be a solid quarterback. And I think Washington minus 3.5. That's at plus 100 odds for them to cover minus 3.5. If you buy your point, those odds shift to minus 130, which is still solid. You throw a $100 bet on that, you win 77. Or if you're thinking divisional game, doesn't matter how the Giants played last week, doesn't matter if Washington has a stout defense, it's going to be a close game and you're not sure. Like, all right, if they win, but they win by 2 points and they don't cover, if you don't want to lose that, if you aren't fully confident in that, minus 175 money line, that's not bad at all, right? Because you see minus 130, at a -3 spread, you might as well just take that -175. $100 bet wins 57. So that's solid, and make sure you gamble responsibly. And that's my locks for tonight. I'm locking in. I'm staying away from the over-under because it could really go either way, especially with those Thursday night games I've always seen. Pick to the house, fumble to the house. Crazy shit to just add points. So I'm going to stay away from the over-under. I'm going to lock in Washington. -3 buying that point at -130 for the odds for that one. Lock that in. And I'm going to lock in, just to be safe, I'm going to lock in on top of that, Washington -175 on the money line. Lock it in. Let's get on to the prop bets. Daniel Jones tonight. And granted, he could have an up and down game, but I think this game flow, and especially with Saquon being questionable, and they're not going to want to run the ball a lot, I think Daniel Jones, his over-under on passing attempts is 34.5. We seen last week, he threw it 37 times in a game where the Broncos, they were up basically the whole game and forced Daniel Jones into that. But I think this is going to be the same type of thing. And Daniel Jones, over 34.5 passing attempts with all those targets, Shepard, Slayton, Galladay, even Rudolph, right? Rudolph is going to get targeted. Probably not going to do much with it, and even if Barkley is out there and he's somewhat more healthy or healthier than last week, then he'll get more targets, right? He's obviously probably never going to have a game again where he 1 catch, 1 yard. That's ridiculous. But Kadarius Toney out there. There's so many weapons for the Giants to throw to and not have to bank on the running game, and especially in a game where they're gonna be down. I think it's a given that Daniel Jones will throw over 34.5 times and hit that 35. So for this game, locking in over 34.5 passing attempts. That's -105. And I'm always gonna throw out the odds for that pick just so you could see like -105. That means the under 34.5 is at -125. A slight favorite for the under, but you know Moons and high stakes takes. We'll send it over like it's nothing. So for this game, lock in Daniel Jones over 34.5 passing attempts. Send it. And my next prop, and we got 5 props tonight. That shit is spicy. And we couldn't went 6-0 last week. If Matt Ryan just threw the ball away a couple times, boom, adds into those passing attempts. And what was the other one? Najee Harris. That was our other lost prop bet. Bruh. And that was only for the Sunday, 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock games. Sunday night game, we hit Dalton to throw a pick. Cooper Kupp over 5.5. Matt Stafford over 1.5 touchdowns. Bruh, come on, we cooking. Let's give it up for the high stakes hate one time. So my next prop, Antonio Gibson. I think this is easy. Antonio Gibson over 15.5 rushes. And if he fumbles, it might not reach 16. But that over-under at 15.5 rushes, the over is the slight favorite at -125. And seeing how we got 20 rushes in the last game, in the game which it was close, so that means they're going to want to establish that run game. You got the backup quarterback coming in who can also run the ball a little bit, which kind of sketches me out about his rushing attempts. But as long as Antonio Gibson goes out there, has a stud of a day, and Washington is up, they're going to keep running the rock. So I think that's a guaranteed over 15.5. Lock it in for Antonio Gibson's rushes. And that's rushing attempts if you don't know the verbiage. And third prop bet for tonight, we got Sterling Shepard over 5.5 catches. Last week, targeted 9 times, 7 catches for 113 yards and a tutty. Absolute monster. one of my 50-50 waiver ads, and quick note for waiver ads. Every time after those waivers go through, and depending if you're in a league, because I'm in a league, as soon as a player gets dropped, they go on waivers, I think for a day, just so everyone has that time to see it. It's not like, oh, someone gets dropped, you could just pick them up right away, because people could just be fiending with their notifications on and adding, dropping players left and right. You don't really want that in your league. You want your league to be solid, so be fair. So every time after a Wednesday, there's gonna be big names dropped. Like, I'll go right to my league. Actually, yeah. I picked up my phone, like I can't just do it on the computer. So yeah, Yahoo. It's crazy. I'm in a Yahoo league. Well, actually, two Yahoo leagues. One got switched over to Sleeper, and the Sleeper app is fire. If you ain't on that yet, make sure you head over there. So we'll just give it to you in real time. So look at this. A huge tight end was just dropped. And you always got to do your due diligence. Check that waiver wire after Wednesday or on Wednesday, because there's going to be surprises out there. Like right now, I always search by rostered percentage, because the highest percentage owned are obviously those players that are going to produce the most. And it doesn't always work out that way. But those higher percentage owned players or higher percentage rostered are always those players that they're gonna have good weeks. And if you look right here, Big Bob Tanya was dropped? What? Let me zoom in on that just to make sure it's correct. Are you kidding me? Last week, like, granted, Rodgers only had like 160 yards or something like that. Of course, Rob Tanya is not gonna do much. Preseason, 84 ranked out of all players, running backs, wideouts, quarterbacks. Preseason ranked 84 overall. Had 4 targets, 2 catches, only 8 yards. But damn, you never know who's gonna be dropped. You know damn well I put in my waiver claim, because Aaron Rodgers, even with Cobb out there, Cobb was one of our DFS plays. Didn't do shit last week. And it gets tough like that, right? Because you think, oh, Cobb coming back first game, or you got Aaron Rodgers, who just fought for him to come back over there on the team. And then all of a sudden they trade for him, doesn't do shit week 1. Sometimes it happens like that. But still, targeted 4 times in a game where at the end of the game, they put Jordan Love in, right? It was just one of those games, man. So you never know who's going to get dropped. Make sure you go check your waiver wire. There could be surprises out there. And if there's anyone over even 70% rostered, like I'm looking at Gesicki right there, solid tight end. Granted, didn't really produce. Well, didn't produce at all. 3 targets, no catches. Good thing I sat him. But he's going to be a solid play this year. So one of those things, make sure you go check it out. And anybody over there, make sure you sort by percentage rostered and look at all those top players that were dropped. So Sterling Shepard, let's kick it back over to the prop bets. Sterling Shepard, over 5.5. I think it's going to play perfectly into it, because if you think Daniel Jones is going to pass a lot like he did last game, you got Sterling Shepard, 9 targets, caught 7 for 113 and a tutty. He's Jones' clear number 1 target. Granted, Slayton has 7 targets, and Galladay has 6 as he works his way onto a new team. But I still think Galladay is that 1B wideout, right there with Shepard. But for this game, the over-under, 5.5. The over is at plus 120 odds. We seen last week Cooper, same over-under. That was at plus 110 odds to hit. And what'd he do? Had like 10 catches for like what, like 180 and a couple tutties? Bruh. You gotta read the game and the game script and try to predict that shit going in. So Sterling Shepard, I think he's a guaranteed lock for 6 catches, plus 120 yards. Jones, number 1 target. Lock it in. And the next one, another wideout on the Giants. Kenny Golladay, his over-under on receptions is only 3.5. And granted, the over is a minus 160 favorite because it's almost guaranteed to hit, especially as that 1B wideout. But it really depends on who's Washington's focal point at the wideout position, whoever they decide. And it'll probably be Shepard. But Shepard, you line him up in the slot, you are not stopping that man either way. He's an absolute monster. He's rocking that number 3 this year. That shit looks fire. I love the single-digit numbers, man. So, Golladay, over-under on 3.5 receptions. Absolute guaranteed. This is my guarantee of the night. Over 3.5. I'm locking it in. Send it. And to finish off the prop bets, we got Daniel Jones, right? And we always think we could, right, week 1, predict someone to throw a fucking pick. Guess what we doing? First game of week 2. I'm predicting someone else to throw a pick. Daniel Jones, his over-under on interceptions is 0.5. That would be absolutely insane if you see a quarterback and his over-under on picks is a 1.5. That quarterback, straight garbage. But with the over-under at 0.5, the over is a minus 150 favorite. Daniel Jones, he's traveling on the road to Washington, playing at FedEx Field where, bruh, if you seen, they were trying to say it was just rainwater coming down. Bruh, I seen someone live, right? You seen the video, people are like moving, people are like, oh, their whole back's covered, right? You see this stream just coming down. It's almost like one of those fucking, I can't think of the name, but things you got on your house that fucking lead the water into a specific spot and lead it away from the house. It looked like that shit just draining down on the seats. Bro, they were like, oh, that's sewage. That's sewage. Just people like looking at their back just covered in shitty water. They're like, damn, you didn't think you'd go to FedEx Field and have a shitty day. Send it. But over under 0.5 on Danny Jones's picks. We're gonna take the over. That's at minus 150, and he has 3 career interceptions versus Washington. So Washington, a team, hell of a defense, and I think this is almost a guarantee. I ain't gonna guarantee it. It is my lock, but you can't guarantee anything in the football game, and fucking anything in life is nothing's a guarantee. Gotta keep grinding. But I think this one, my last prop lock of the night, Daniel Jones to throw a pick at minus 150 odds. Send it. Let's go. Let's go. And that's the Thursday night show. I cannot wait for week 2 to get started. Even though it's only Washington versus the Giants, I'll fucking take it. I'll take it, shit. I'd watch the Lions versus Houston. So, those are my locks for today. DFS, make sure you stay away from it. If it's not like a Thursday into a Monday or a Thursday into Sunday, if it's only a 5-player flex, stay away from that. Because you already know your lineup is most likely going to get picked by someone else. And you know me. If I win something, and you put your lineup out there, bruh, if I got a split with like 10,000 people, it's not going to be a happy camper. You're going to be happy you won. But damn, I'm not trying to split that with 1,000 people. I don't know about you, but I can't be doing that. And those are my locks for tonight. So that's the Thursday night show. Let's get in to the Europa League locks. Let's get it. If we look right here, first game start at 12:45, and there's actually 8 games at 12:45 and 7 games at 3 o'clock. There was a game yesterday for the Europa League, but that probably got switched to yesterday because of some travel issues or something like that with the teams, or upcoming games or something where they came to a agreement to play that a day earlier. But today, we're going to swing through the Europa League locks kind of quickly. We got Bayern Leverkusen versus Ferencváros. Leverkusen coming into this game, they're favored minus 500. We're going to stay away from the money line. I got them, and they played a hell of a game. We took them, 0.5 versus Dortmund. They went up early, ended up Dortmund tying it up. They went up again. Dortmund stormed back with a couple goals to win the game. Hell of a game on Saturday last week. But in this game, at home versus Ferencváros, they've been playing out of their mind this year. We're going to lock in Bayern Leverkusen minus 1.5, and that's minus 140 favorite. And we're going to lock in the over 3.5. Let me just make sure. Oh, yeah, and quickly. Last night, not that 4-4 on Champions League locks, but, bruh, MLS going crazy. DC United versus Chicago over 2.5. Send it. San Jose versus Real Salt Lake. Send it. I think that Real Salt Lake game ended with 7 goals combined. So, hell of a day. Ending it with a couple more locks. And we hit the parlay. We would have added that Atlanta, I think Atlanta played Cincinnati yesterday. In Atlanta at home, after they picked up Araujo from Lille. He's been playing out of his mind over there with Josef Martinez. And Atlanta got a hell of a squad, and especially they were at home with the over-under on that game, 2.5. I didn't add it to the locks because I thought all the games started at 7:30. And obviously not the San Jose game, because any West Coast game for East Coast folks always going to start at 10 o'clock, 10:30. But we thought all the early games started at 7:30. I go look just to make sure and put the locks in. Bruh, 8 minutes into the game, Atlanta already up 1-0. So it would be kind of corny to add that, but I did have it in the parlay. I think I got in the parlay right after the Champions League ended yesterday. So I meant to put that out there. We were actually 3-0 last night. But, right, you can't put a pick out there after they're already up fucking 1-0. So 2-0 last night, absolute fire. And we had 3 more hitters last night. Make sure you go to High Stakes Takes on Twitter, see all the latest locks. And after I'm done recording this episode, we're going to send out the picks for today in the Europa League. And we're going to post all the latest hitters from yesterday. We're on a 5-day streak. 16 hitters in 5 days, going crazy. Let's get to it. So, make sure you check out the latest episode too. There's always good info and shit on there. We're cooking. I definitely gotta update this my header, right? I was just amped that boy won the skills competition as a fucking power forward. That shit's fire. When you call your pick and it actually hits, and they say, one of the worst things, or one of the, it sends bad vibes, right? It's not good for picks to put your picks out there. Bro, I love it. I want everyone to eat, right? If I'm eating, I want to make sure y'all are too, and make sure you watch the episode. Now, I don't even mind if you fucking right away you're skipping through it just to the locks or just to the end of it, right? Just in between each lock, go ahead, right? In all reality, unless I'm fucking, right, got 500,000 followers or something, who's gonna sit there and watch an hour and 15 minutes of moments, right? I don't even mind if you skip through. Just make sure you get your locks, because sitting at a 64% hit rate, that's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. And I think that's over the last couple years, or maybe even over that last year and a half, because we didn't really start keeping track of it until we were yo, we're hitting at a different clip right now. There was days like Premier League opening day. Sent out all the locks. Bruh, Premier League opening day, we went 10-0. Absolute filthy day. So you're gonna have days like that. You're gonna have days where you like Sunday, we went 3 for 5 on picks. Green Bay lost. Pats lost. Ended up hedging that bet with that live Miami pick. But it was right, Damian Harris fumbling, like my Pats should have won. But that's how it goes sometimes. So I see, went on a little tangent. Let's go back to the most trash sports book. Like, I love Rhode Island, but they need to get their shit together with this sports book, man. And especially like FanDuel and shit. I can't even bet on FanDuel. Those parlays I see on there, like you could parlay prop bets and all that shit, bruh, I would be marking it even more. Like, this shit would be hectic. All right, sportsbook, they don't allow it. So that shit's kind of whack. But you got today, Leverkusen C moved from minus 570. And if you look at that handicap at C, now that shifted to minus 2.5. That's going to be tough. I still think they'll hit that. They'll probably win like 4-1, 3-0. But with the over-under at 3.5, oh my God. Damn. God, sheesh. You see the over? When I took these notes last night, bruh, that moved from the over 3.5 plus 140 odds to plus 105. That is guaranteed to hit. Absolutely guaranteed to hit. And if you aren't confident, see, this is where they get you. They'll move it to 2.5. And I think Man United in the other game, we were sketched out about it too. They ended up in Ronaldo's first game back in the Premier League. Man United was favored on the handicap bet, minus 2.5. We were sketched out about it, not knowing whether or not they'll cover, but knowing guaranteed they'll win like 3-1. It'll hit the over 3.5, and they're guaranteed to win. Bruh, Lingard scoring a goal in the 90th plus 2. Happens like that shit sometimes. And that's, bro, I couldn't imagine, right? If you took that minus 2.5, and then all of a sudden you're like, damn, not gonna hit. All of a sudden, Lingard, goal. That shit would be hectic. But for this game, I think they'll cover still. But I got the lock in at minus 1.5 or 1.5. So that's my lock for this game. You can take Leverkusen, right? If you take them in the over, plus 140 odds, not bad at all. That's actually a solid bet right there. Because they go out there, they put up goals. Sometimes they give up goals, but versus Ferencváros, I'm not seeing them put up any more than 1. So I think Leverkusen guaranteed to win. If you're skeptical about the handicap bet, stay away from that. But Leverkusen money line and the over 3.5 plus 140 odds, that's solid. So let's get into the next game. Mother hubba. Yo, the way you like sift through these picks and shit, even the website garbage too. The website is basura. So my next lock for the Europa League, we got Real Betis at home versus Celtic. This is a game where it's gonna get spicy. They were minus 165 when I wrote this down. Shifted just a little to minus 170. I think for the fact that Celtic, or I'm pretty sure they call it Celtic, but I was hearing some announcers talk yesterday. Right? It's that thing. Like, you really don't know. It's the give or take whether or not you say like Heineke or Henneke, whatever the fuck. And yo, another thing, Troy Polamalu. Have I been saying his name wrong this whole time? grown up seeing the fucking hair dangle out of the back, flying over the line, jumping over the line to block kicks and fucking get those tackles for losses on 4th down or the short yardage plays. Wilding out saying Troy Polamalu just because that shit sounds smooth as fuck. Is his name really pronounced Polamalu? That is if I've been saying it wrong this whole time, I'm sorry. That is my fault. That's crazy. But I know everyone around me was saying the same shit. That's hectic. And I think actually, like, it was just like maybe like within the past couple years, in one interview or some shit, he did say that it was Polamalu, which is insane. I had no clue. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't know that either. But Real Betis, I think they guaranteed. And you see how the handicap bet for them to win by a half, that means they have to win by at least a goal or win in general. Sometimes that minus a half will be at like minus 160 odds. And for them to win on the money line will be at minus 170. So just to get your odds a little better, right, you take that. So we're going to add Real Betis to the parlay. I think they're guaranteed to beat Celtic or Celtic. And especially when they just sold Edouard over to Crystal Palace. And bruh, started off his Crystal Palace career with 2 goals. 2 goals? What a fucking performance out of that man. And if he starts with Zaha, that's gonna be a scary Palace team. Well, not scary as in they'll beat the top teams like Liverpool. And shout out Liverpool yesterday, getting that big victory. They were dominating the whole first half, up 1-0. I think there's like 5 minutes to go in the first half. I'm like, yo, let me go get these dishes done quick, right? All of a sudden, go back. Well, actually, I didn't even go back. My phone's right there, seeing if Lautaro Martinez could actually finish an opportunity in front of net, which we should have hit a first goal score on that too, but it's just how the ball hits the head sometimes, right? It's so crazy how shit happens. And like the slightest like movements and shit could turn a goal to a save. So that shit's tough. But I have my phone right there, right? I'm looking, I'm watching. And all of a sudden I get a right? The notification pops up. AC Milan up 2-1 versus Liverpool at half. Bro, what? What the fuck happened? That shit's insane. So, up and down game yesterday. Right after half, they ended up tying it up. Mohamed Salah. And they could have been up 2-0, but Salah missed the penalty. It was a clear handball, but missing that penalty, that could have been crucial. But Henderson with that game-winning volley, absolute monster. And you seen the passion. He's like, let's go. Let's go. Dog. And me watching that, that's how I feel too, bro. I swear there's nothing, bro. There's nothing like soccer in those fucking stadiums and the environment. Yo, it's just crazy different when you got teams from different countries playing each other. That's so crazy. And then Klopp too, as passionate as he is, bruh, I fucking love Liverpool, man. And it's definitely on the bucket list to go over to England and watch one of those games. Cannot wait. It's definitely gonna happen within the next couple years. So, and definitely after this vaccination shit goes away. 'Cause I was trying to go to that, I think it's like UFC, whatever, Covington versus Usman. That's gonna be a hell of a card. Pre-sale just started this morning. I'm like, word. Maybe hit another one with Branks. But yo, right at the top it's saying you have to be vaccinated. Bro, my antibodies ain't good enough? Come on. That's that bullshit. So that's tough. Some stadiums are gonna require you to be vaccinated, all that. I hate that, because that gets political too. You make someone, I ain't gonna get into it, but that sucks. They have to be vaccinated to attend these crazy sporting events, at least at some places. So the next lock for this, we got Dynamo Zagreb versus West Ham. And West Ham haven't been performing too well lately. 0-0 draw versus Southampton. Real boring game. Michael Antonio, red carded. We got a second yellow at the end of the game. They've been shaky as of late. But I think in going on the road, what is Zagreb? I'm pretty sure that's Croatia. Going over to Croatia to play, it's gonna be tough. But I think West Ham, they're a solid team. They got enough attacking power to get out there and put in work. And with the over-under, see, we took the over, which was at -110 for it to hit the over, but now shifted to +100. It's kind of sketchy. That's probably telling me to stay away from it, right? Seeing it shift like that. But see, that's tough. Yeah, so all right, that one, we wrote it down, but we're going to stay away from it, especially seeing the shift. And like, we seen the shift on, last episode, where we were seeing, all right, how, I'm pretty sure it was, Villarreal versus Atalanta game. Bruh, we seen in that game, the over-under, I think it was at like +100 for the over to hit, moved to -115. Just seeing that shift shows you where the money's going a little bit. So we ended up locking in the over. Ended up hitting. So definitely a thing to where, like, the upcoming matchups for football this week on Sunday, and hell of a show dropping Sunday, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But you want to get those odds and see what they're at early and see where it's shifting. That could definitely attribute to whether or not you make that pick, or if you see money going the other direction, you might just stay away from it in general. So it's definitely a good thing to see. So as soon as odds drop, I always print it out and make sure, all right, these are the opening odds. And then by Sunday morning, new injuries added, all that, we see where it shifts. So it's definitely a thing to keep an eye on. But we're going to stay away from that West Ham on the road versus Dynamo Zagreb. The other game we got 4 more locks in the Europa League. We got, so, see, I was looking for it. Ooh, and see, that shifted too. The over-under didn't shift much or at all, but Lazio on the road versus Galatasaray. Lazio was +105 just last night. You see how it's shifting. +123. That's the thing you got to make sure you're keeping an eye on that. But I still think Ciro Immobile, Felipe Anderson, they got too much in attack. And Lazio was a hell of a team. Granted, playing AC Milan, that shit got tough. They probably should have lost 3-0 if it wasn't for Kessie's missed penalty. But Lazio, going up against Galatasaray, even though they're going on the road to Turkey, I think they're guaranteed to win this game. And there's enough firepower between both of the teams to put up goals. So for this game, we're going to lock in. We had Lazio +105, but if we could get them at +123, we'll lock that in. And we're going to lock in the over in that game too. I think there's going to be goals. It could finish 2-2 draw, but I think Lazio has enough, and they're the more well-established team to get that victory, even if it is on the road. So lock in Lazio +123 on the money line, and we're going to lock in the over 2.5. Send it. Let's go. And on to the third to last lock for these Europa League games. Leicester versus Napoli. Now this is one that could get spicy. You got Lorenzo Insigne, who's questionable for this game. If you're playing in big matches, I think they're going to want, or I think he's guaranteed to play, even if he is banged up a little bit. Ooh. See? Let's see if this shifted a little bit. I don't think it shifted much. But, see? Napoli plus a half yesterday was at a minus 150 favorite for them to win or draw, because that's basically a win or draw, being plus a half. But going on the road to Leicester just lost 1-0 to Man City, played a hell of a game versus them. And into this game, if Insigne plays, and this is one where you have to make sure he plays. And I'm not going to add it in because those early games at 12:45, you don't know whether or not Insigne is going to play, because that lineup hasn't dropped yet. But lineups always drop an hour before the game. Make sure you know that too. Little note to keep in mind. And Napoli moving from minus 150 favorite to stay within a draw or win the game. That shifting to minus 170. I think that's the guarantee. You got to make sure Insigne plays though. And with the over-under, what's it at? Over-under's even odds for both sides. We stayed away from this one. I'm still not going to pick one, but I think if we add Napoli to there, I think that's a guaranteed hitter. And that's only if Insigne plays, so make sure you keep that in mind. So Napoli plus a half, lock it in. And on to the second to last Europa League lock of the day. We got PSV at home versus Real Sociedad. Now Sociedad, they got Oyarzabal. Pretty sure that's how you say his name. You got a couple letters in there that don't really make sense to me, but you know what I mean? Try to sound it out. But Oyarzabal, the Spanish international. You got Alexander Isak, who is an absolute beast. And now that I'm thinking about it right now, PSV got a hell of a team, but Sociedad's solid too. And yesterday, or the last show when we were looking at first goal scorers and shit, and we called that Ronaldo first goal. Let's see what this one. Yeah, Alexander Isak plus 400 to score first goal. I think that's a hell. It's Oyarzabal. If I said that, I might have said it fucked up last time, but Oyarzabal plus 600 to score first. Madueke, or I won't try it again, is also plus 600 to score the first goal. I think Alexander Isak though, I think we'll throw him out there for a flyer, plus 400 to score the first goal on the road versus PSV. I think that's just gonna be fire. This game is gonna be a hell of a game, back and forth. And with the over/under at 2.5, and this is another thing we've seen, because I wrote it down this morning. The over 2.5 was minus 135. Now it just shifted to minus 110, which is basically the underdog. You got the under 2.5, a slight favorite now. I'm going to still send the over in this game. I think there's too much firepower out on that pitch to not score goals. And PSV, they play that attacking type of play where if they play in big games that are known to let up goals, like they play Benfica, and even with Benfica getting that red card in the second leg of that Champions League qualifier, even though they got that red card, they were still able to stay in the game and get attacking chances. So with PSV playing in the Eredivisie and Real Sociedad, you always got to look at the leagues they play in too and how well they're playing in that league this year. Sociedad, hell of a team. And I think we didn't write this one down, but just looking at it and reading the thing, I think again, Real Sociedad to stay within either a draw or win the game at plus a half, minus 170 odds. I think that's a guarantee. Ooh, you can't add. See, it should be fucked up sometimes. You can't add both of those in the parlay. So for this game, just seeing the over shift down a little bit, we'll still send a lock, but we can't add it to the parlay. So for this game, we'll lock in the over 2.5 goals in PSV versus Real Sociedad. And we're going to now lock in Real Sociedad plus a half to either draw or win the game. I think there's too much firepower on that team, especially playing in La Liga where there's a bunch of tough competition. You don't only have like a few teams like PSV. They just washed AZ Alkmaar in their last game. In Alkmaar, they sold Cooper Myers. They sold Badu. It's tough for them. I think they had did they have Berghaus? Nah. I think Berghaus was on fuck it don't matter. But one thing that was surprising that Berghaus, I forgot he had moved to Ajax. We probably dropped it in like later episodes or previous episodes. But Berghaus now on Ajax, they dominated Sporting in their first opening match day 1 game. I think they beat them 5-1. Absolute Sebastian Haller, 4 goals for Ajax. Absolutely spazzing out there. So in this game, lock in Real Sociedad +0.5. And we're still going to lock in. Even though the odds have shifted a little bit, still going to go with my gut on this game and lock in over 2.5. Send it. And that brings us right into the last lock of the day. Over in the Europa League. This is another game where I think it's going to be fire. Back and forth. You got Rangers taking out Lyon. And Rangers, Steven Gerrard. They got Morelos back over in striker. With that coach, and even though they play in the Scottish Premier League, obviously not a huge league. They only got like Celtic to worry about, a couple other low-key teams. But even though they're at home, and with Lyon traveling on the road, susceptible to goals, we are not going to pick a winner in this game. We think there's going to be goals left and right. Lyon just picked up Shaqiri. They do have some injuries. Let me just make sure. And sometimes, even looking at this, see, they say Shaqiri is not going to play. Oh, see? Questionable. See, they switched that shit. Because I hate looking at it. And Cadewere, him being hurt, kind of sketchy. Thiago Mendes in the midfield. Moussa Dembele, kind of sketchy. But if you look at Lyon in their latest games, coming off that 3-1 victory at home versus Strasbourg, where Moussa Dembele, he got out there, scored a goal, but they still have a Kambi. They still got Aouar. And if Shaqiri plays, along with Bruno Guimaraes and Thiago Mendes out, that's sketchy. See, I think all those players out are going to leave that team susceptible to goals. So we're going to stay away from winners. And even though Lyon is that favorite on the road at +135, I think for this game, another +0.5, -170 odds pick. We're going to lock in. And we didn't write this down. It's just on the fly. Just reading the game and shit. So, Rangers +0.5 at home. I think that's guaranteed. Lock it in. And with the over-under at 2.5, those odds haven't shifted because it's really not as close to game time yet. But once those lineups drop, those odds get to shifting. So make sure you check the lineups before. Some of these 3 o'clock games, it could be crucial because you never know. Like yesterday, Van Dijk didn't play for Liverpool. Sadio Mane didn't start. Firmino still out. It was sketchy, right? We threw it out there as a pick, but we knew it was gonna be tough. Ended up getting the victory, but those are the little things you gotta be careful of, because especially when teams are playing weekend games and then they're playing in European competition in midweek. Those are so many games for these teams, especially playing 90 minutes. Like we seen last night, I think in the Atlanta United game, Josef Martinez sitting on 2 goals. It's about 15 minutes to go left in the game, right? He got 75 minutes in. And then they take him out. Usually a player is going to be heated, right? They want to go get that hat trick. But sometimes you got to think about the team and think about those upcoming games you got. So sometimes it gets tough. But make sure you check out those lineups before the games, because you never know who they could throw out there. That's why I say nothing's ever guaranteed, because all of a sudden, Van Dijk not starting, Mane not out there. I'm like, bro, I'm sitting here, I got my Mane jersey on. I'm like, bro, he's not even starting. And ended up getting the victory anyway. But those them things, it'll sketch you out. So for this game, I think guaranteed to hit the over. And I think Rangers covering at home, if not winning the game, ending in a 2-2 draw, I think that's a guarantee. So lock in over 2.5, and I'm gonna lock in Rangers plus a half at -170 odds. Send it. And that wraps up the show. Let's get it. Let's get it. Huge Thursday. First short week of the NFL season. Giants, Washington tonight, divisional matchup. You know there's going to be some hard hits out there. And one of the biggest takeaways from the last week, I think because there was so much commotion in the preseason, I think there was an indie running back. Probably a dude who's on the practice squad now, right? Had an ill run. Bruh, just monstering people. Won't go down. Dragged them for like 3, 4, 5, 6 yards. Got the first down and got up and like wilded out. I think he like did the thing with the ball when he's pointing for the first down, right? Wilded out. You work so hard to get to that point. Of course you're going to celebrate some ill shit like that. Or celebrate anything. Because nothing in the NFL comes easy and nothing in professional sports comes easy. So for them to celebrate, you got to allow it. And for them to talk about that little taunting bullshit, I'm so glad week 1 there was a couple instances where I was like, oh shit, he might get flagged for that. And it was really borderline. And I don't think I ever seen him throw the flag. So they letting him play out there. I love to see it. Hell of a season to start. And we're going to be locked in all year long. And for every year to come. Fuck it. Send it. And on that note, you already know, ending it with JB on the beat. Shout out Jashawn. That boy, I've been telling him, you got to get his page, bro. You got to get your page. Your beats are solid. Are solid. Right? You got a little... You got a gift, bro. You see you got a gift with it, all it takes, you to take that little gift you got, add some hard work, what I tell E Gravy, and shout out E Gravy, that man shouted out. He's like, damn, bro. He was like, your pod's growing. I was like, I appreciate the love, brother. Right? Slow grind, but we gonna get there, all for it. And I said, gonna take a little bit, but patience and persistence is key. So it's what it is. And I want that man to get out there, start grinding his beats for real. Make a page for it, make a YouTube for it. Start getting them views up, and all of a sudden, all it takes that one person to notice you that got some stature in that industry. Up from there. So on that note, gonna end it with JB on the beat. Turn this up on me.